Hello, my name is Valerie Willis. I am an early learning coach lead with Child Care Resources. And today I am going to be sharing some basic information with you about becoming a licensed in-home child care provider. I'm going to be going through a short PowerPoint with you, and this handout will be made available as well. I'm going to start sharing my screen. The topic today is becoming licensed. And I always like to just start with some of the questions that may come up during the session. But before I do that, I'm going to acknowledge the indigenous lands that we live on, work on, enjoy our families. And I am currently on the Puyallup, Coastal Salish, and Duwamish lands. If you'd like to learn what lands that you may be inhabiting, there's information here in this slide that you can use to look that information up. On to our questions. The purpose to provide some information on how to become an in-home licensed child care provider. Sometimes an in-home provider might be referred to as a family child care or FCC. All of those mean the same thing. I'm going to answer some questions that have been asked by some potential providers, and then I'll provide the very first few steps that you'll need to start your licensing journey. So questions. The first thing that comes up for a lot of potential applicants for licensing is, can I have a child care in an apartment? This is an extremely rare occasion for a provider to have a child care in an apartment setting. It can depend on licensing and several other criteria. The other question that comes up related to that is, does it have to be on the ground level? And the answer to that is yes. Currently, child care providers, if they are awarded a license in an apartment, have to be on the ground level floor. Other questions that come up: how long does this process take? This process can take up to 90 days to complete, to where you're actually able to start caring for children. And I'll be talking a little bit more about why it takes so much time. Questions come up about cost and fees and all of that. I won't be getting into a lot of those specific details, but I will share with you that there is an application fee of $30 that you would be paying to DCYF licensing department at the time of your licensing appointment. Let's see, other questions that come up is, do I have to live in the residence? In order to be an in-home provider, you must reside at the location that you want to have the child care. Potential applicants have also asked, can I have a center program in my home? Depending on the space, how you will separate the different age groups, it's possible, but it is very cumbersome to get through all of the process that needs to happen. And there are some higher costs with opening a center in a home setting. Let's see. Other questions that are come up are around, the title or the name of my program. You can, as an in-home provider, licenses are issued in your first and last name, and that has to be your legal name. You can have a doing business as, and then have the name of your program, or you could just continue to use your first and last name, which appears on the childcare license. At this time, that's all of the questions that generally come up in the early stages of becoming licensed. And so I'm going to move on to our next section. So the first thing that you really want to do when you are starting out in this licensing journey, you want to create a business email. This email will be used to communicate back and forth between you and the licensing office. You may receive other emails relating to childcare and early learning community through this email. So it's a good recommendation to keep it separate from your personal email. Generally, your email is how a lot of information is given or provided to you from the licensing office. And we encourage potential applicants for licensing to monitor your business email on a daily basis for communications from your licensing office. This is very important, especially when you get prepared to do your background check. That particular piece is done through what's called a merit account, and I'm going to talk about that next. But your business email is really key in this licensing process. I've listed here Yahoo accounts. Often we find with Merit, the training portal, and different accounts associated with becoming licensed, Yahoo accounts don't work very well as a good email. We encourage a Gmail, or if you have one through your cable company or something of that nature, but Yahoo tends to not work well. Hotmail even works better than a Yahoo account. Next, we're going to talk about your Merit account. Now, once you've created your business email, your next step is going to be to go to the DCYF website and click on Merit, and we will provide you the link so that you have that available to you. And it is above here in this slide. You will click on the Merit link, and down here where it says Merit registration, you'll want to click on this button to begin to create your Merit account. Once you click this button, the following screen should come up for you. That screen will include your name, your email address, and a password and username. Generally for Merit, there are only two options for a username. The first is your email or your STARS ID. At the beginning, it will generally be your email address, because until you actually create this account, you will not have a STARS ID. That will be the next topic once we get into your Merit account. So once you've clicked on Merit registration, you'll fill in the information, enter your email as your username, and then you will create a password with some specific characters, letters, numbers, uppercase and lowercase for the password. This is for security purpose, as you don't want people being able to access your Merit account. Okay, now you've registered and created your Merit account. The first screen you should see is the one here on the left that shows the home page once the account has been created. This shows that your merit account has been created, and then it lists some tabs across the top that you will be accessing at different points throughout this process, after you become licensed, and so on. But your next step is to create your STARS ID number. On the right-hand side, you will notice that we've clicked on the tabs application tab, and I've pointed out here STARS ID number. And if you notice to the right of that, it says use this application to request a STARS ID number and create a professional record in merit. Once you submit this application, you will receive your STARS ID immediately on the confirmation page and via email. Again, see how important your business email will be throughout this process and moving forward. You'll want to write down your STARS ID at this point so that for the next step, you'll need to enter your STARS ID number. Your next step in this process is the DCYF training portal. Now that you have your STARS ID, you can create your training portal account. This is an account where all of the DCYF licensing training requirements live. They provide these trainings to you to help you in this process. The child care basics class is here. Your orientation, which includes 2 modules, lives here. Your safe sleep training that you will have to complete also lives here, and many, many more. But at this point, we're just at the beginning stages, and this is how you will create your training portal account. On this page, you will click Need an Account, Sign Up. Once you've created, or once you've clicked Sign Up, you will see the following page come up that's shown down here at the bottom of this slide. This is not the entire screen, but just to give you an idea of what you should be looking for. You enter your first name, your last name, your email address, again, referencing that business email, your STARS ID that you created in your merit account, and a little bit demographic information. At the very end, you will create a username and password. The username can be whatever you choose it to be. There are no requirements on a certain number of letters or numbers or anything of that nature. You can make it as simple as you want so that you can remember it. As the same goes for your password here. You can create that to be however you need it to be, as long as you can remember it or store it someplace securely so there's no one else to access it. Now, once you've completed that and clicked Save, you will be ready to take the first required training. Now that your account is complete, there's a link that says register for training. You will click that button and a host of trainings will be made available to you. You will complete under orientation module 1 and module 2. Those are the very first 2 that are required before your appointment with the licensing office. And if you choose, you could also complete the child care basics or CCB. Once you have completed modules 1 and 2, you can contact your local licensing office based on the location of your childcare program to schedule your visit to submit your application and all of your documentation. These training modules will also show up as completed in your merit account. That is part of the importance of having your STARS ID. It links many things to your merit so that they can track your professional development, the trainings that you complete, and so on. I do want to note here that these are just the beginnings of the trainings that you will need to complete and will get you started in this licensing process. Now, you've contacted the licensing office, you've scheduled your appointment. There's some documentation that must accompany your application when you meet with the licensing office. We've listed here the items that you will need to gather and take with you or either submit via email. A copy of your picture identification, either your license or your state ID, a copy of your social security card, a copy of your orientation certificate. You should print this out at the end of module 2 when you complete those 2 modules. You'll need a high school diploma or transcript. If needed, you might need to have your transcripts or high school diploma evaluated to make sure it meets our country's education requirements for a high school diploma. You will need a copy of your resume. If you don't have one, they provide a link here for you to create one. You'll need a copy of the floor plan. Attached is a floor plan checklist that you can use as a guide. You can also go to www.floorplan.com. You will need to apply for an EIN number. This is an employer identification number if you don't already have one. We've provided the link for that as well. You will need to apply for a Washington State business license. And here again, we've provided the link for you to be able to do that. Liability insurance. Here's the link also for DCYF's liability form. This means lets parents know that enroll in your program that you either carry liability insurance or you do not. As noted here, it's not required to have liability insurance, but the completed form is required. You also have to get water testing, and we provided some links for you to be able to do that and to find out more about getting your water tested. All of these documents must be put together with your application. Generally, DCYF licensing charges $30 for submitting your application to become a licensed provider. However, that fee has been waived until January of 2023. So if you're really thinking about becoming a provider, now is the time. You'll save $30. All right. You've gathered all your documents, you have your application ready, and you've scheduled your appointment with your licensing office. What's going to happen when you meet with the licensor? During that meeting, licensors will review your documents to make sure they're complete, and they will take your application. And if it's after January of 2023, they will also take your application fee. This is the very first steps that you will be taking to start this licensing journey. You will have some additional tasks that you must complete by the time the licensor prepares to come out and actually inspect your home to become licensed. And through a partnership between the Department of Commerce, Start Early, and Parent Child Plus, you can receive support to help you complete the steps that follow in preparation for your inspection visit. Now, I do want to back up and tell you that once licensing has received all your information, it's entered into their database, and they issue you kind of a temporary number for you to be able to complete other steps and other processes that you have to go through to become licensed. And again, support can and will be provided to you if you choose this pathway. Once they've entered that in the database, then the licensor will begin to look for a date when they can come out and schedule your inspection visit. Again, you'll want to monitor your email and your phone, as they may email you or they may call you to let you know when they're coming. That concludes this short webinar about becoming licensed. This little webinar was just intended to give you some basic information about the first steps that you would go through in this licensing journey and the things that you will need to do in part of this process. If you have additional questions before you actually begin this licensing process, you can reach out to your early learning specialist for support. They will be able to answer questions that you might have regarding this process, and will support you to the extent that you allow them. So to wrap up, your first step, creating a business email account, creating your Merit account, and creating your training portal account. Remember, these are your first steps in the licensing process. Thank you for watching.